guess I can do this. Well, we have a little change of plans. I'm inside filming Weekend Edition because I went outside, set up the camera, set out onto the picnic table, and then you just started going like this because it's very windy outside today. The first really nice day we've had in quite a while, and it turns out it's too windy to film. This is Sunday. I got to get the program out tonight. Yeah, I'm actually filming this the day that it comes out because I have to get it out by tonight. So I thought, well, the best thing I could possibly do is just go inside, sit around where it's green and smells good and the wind isn't blowing you onto your butt, and do Weekend Edition. So I think that'll have to do. So with that being said, welcome to Weekend Edition, everybody. Weekend Edition in a nutshell is where this would be you have questions about gardening, life, love, anything, squirrels with two tails. It doesn't really matter. If you have questions about anything and you want an answer from me, post it in the comment section below. I will put it on Weekend Edition where I answer your questions to the very best of my ability. Sometimes the answers are correct. Sometimes they're incorrect. More often than not, they're a little bit off center, and but they are off the top of my head, and that's what I normally do on Weekend Edition. I think people like that. I think they do. Okay, now that you've had the forewarning, let's get on with this, okay? Tina, hi, you're the first one on Weekend Edition. Your question is, do you have a septic tank? And if you do, how do you maintain it? Why, yes, I do have a septic tank. Most folks that live out in the country, I'm not talking about like on the edge of town or anything, but generally out in the country where there are no people, they have to have what's called a septic system. I'm not explaining it to you, I'm explaining to people who may not know what a septic system is. In town, you go potty, you flush, you take a shower, you use the dishwasher, all of that goes away and you never have to worry about it. You wash your hands, so to speak, of all of that stuff. Well, out here in the country, we don't have that luxury, and it is a luxury as far as I'm concerned. Out here, they don't have pipes that are long enough to get into town. So what we have to do is we have to be our own sewage treatment plant. Yes, that sounds absolutely fun, doesn't it? And it really is not as bad as it may sound. Fungus gnats, lovely. All it really is you flush, you take a shower, you wash your dishes, all of that stuff goes into what's called a tank. A huge 500 to 1,000 gallon tank out behind your house, buried a few feet below the surface. You never see it. You never have to really deal with it if you do it right. It all goes in there. The bacteria that is naturally in your body and everything that goes down the tubes helps digest that down into like a liquid, like a slurry, like soup, like pudding. And then, it's disgusting, isn't it? Well, sewage is disgusting. Then there's a secondary tank. The liquid rises up and goes into a tube and goes into a secondary tank separate from this other one is connected to it. That liquid with no solids ferments even more and breaks down, and then it goes through these pipes that are about 6 inches across. It goes out into all these many pipes with holes in them, and it goes down into the ground. Those pipes are buried like about 3 to 4 feet underground, so you never see them. The liquid goes down into the soil. The microbes in the soil digest that gray water, brown water, and that's all it is basically water. The microbes in the soil digest that down, and then it turns into regular water and goes down into the soil, and it actually fertilizes things. If you have trees out next to there, you'll notice the trees grow better. Things tend to grow better around the septic field because all it is basically compost tea. Yes, it's a different kind of compost tea, not the compost tea I'd want to mess with, but that's what happens. Now, one thing that some folks who don't know much about septic systems do is they throw a product called Riddex. And I had to mention the name because that's the most popular one. They dump Riddex in there, and Riddex and the commercials will tell you that helps break down the stuff in your septic system. Professionals who deal with septic systems will tell you that no, you don't need that. You don't need that at all because there's bacteria in your system. That's what actually helps digest things in your system. So when you flush the toilet, you're flushing millions and millions of bacteria out with the sewage, and it keeps breaking it down. You never need to add anything to your system. One thing that you don't want to add to your system, anything that's not basically, I know this sounds weird, but I have to explain it to people. If you ever decide to move out to the country, you can take this advice with you. Anything that does not come out of you or off a toilet paper roll should never go down the drain if you have a septic system. Case closed. No paper towels, no paper, no condoms, no lipstick, no syringes, no human heads. Nothing should go into that septic system unless it came out of you or off a roll of toilet paper. That's it. That's how we have to be a little bit different here out in the country than people in the city who could just flush anything, you know. But yes, I do maintain that I have it pumped once a year by a professional who comes out, sticks this huge tube into the septic tank, pumps everything out, and then I start all over again. Even though the system will digest everything, this helps keep it healthy and clean and ready for the next year so you don't have any problems, because that's one of the things. We want to head off problems with the septic system before they become a problem, because if they become a problem, it could be a $12,000 problem. Yeah, so pumping it and paying $175 a year, that's an investment in a good, solid, clean septic system. All right, now that we've gotten over the sludge, let's get onto Dean's question. Dean says, I'm in Oregon. I believe my last frost date is May 5th. I think that's close to mine too. What seeds should I start indoors? Here I am indoors. What seeds should I start indoors now to get a jump start for the raised garden beds in about a month? P.S. I just got a bunch of seeds from your store. Thanks. Ah, thank you. I appreciate people that are shopping at Little Shop of Seeds. It helps me out. It helps you out. It's a win-win situation for everybody. As far as what to start indoors, generally, now you can start a lot of things indoors, but generally the only things I start indoors are the things that take a long time to grow. And I go like this because these raggedy looking things are my pepper plants. They don't look like much, but then again, my pepper plants never do look like much when they're indoors. For some reason, they grow, they look nice, then they start fruiting and flowering, and then they start looking ratty like they had a really bad Saturday night. And they can't continue to look like that until I take them outside and plant them in the garden. Then about maybe 2 weeks after being in the garden, they start putting out new growth, they start growing again, they get huge, beautiful, healthy, and I get record-setting yields. That's my pattern. Now the same thing with tomato plants. They start growing really good, then they start looking like crap in here, then I take them outside, they do the same thing. Why? I don't know. I don't question why. All I know is that's what it does, and that's the result I get when I plant them outside, and it works for me. So that's what I do. Now, peppers, tomatoes, maybe eggplants, those three things take a long time to grow. There are a few other things that I'm not thinking of as well, but anything that takes time to form the plant, like I'm saying peppers because they do take a while to form a good solid plant. You can get a seedling in no time at all, but that's going to take a while to grow outside and then to fruit. Whereas indoors, I like to get a head start. So right now, start, if you haven't done it already, tomatoes, peppers, if you're doing eggplants, do that. Anything that has like a woody stem or a good solid base. Do those indoors, transplant them outdoors. Everything else, I just plant it outside. It's just a hassle. Unless you have a huge room with lots of good lights or a super shiny window and lots of space and time, it really isn't worth it to start it indoors. Francine. Hey, Francine. What do you plan on planting this season? Ooh, I will give you a hint, folks. Actually, I'm not going to give you a hint. I'm going to tell you all about it. I plan on, this is my plan. Let's see how it works out, okay? I have what's called Little Shop of Seeds. That's my little online store that people buy seeds from. Well, what I wanted to do this year, which is something I haven't ever done, I'm going to go through Little Shop of Seeds and select a seed here, a seed there, of as many varieties as my garden can hold. I have a little garden. You may think it's a large garden because I do gardening programs outside, but I actually don't have a lot of gardening space, and there's a few things that I have to grow every year. I'm going to be growing 4 kinds of peppers because I save the seeds and I offer them on Little Shop of Seeds. I also grow 2 kinds of tomatoes. I harvest the seeds and I offer them a Little Shop of Seeds. That's the Prax Cherry and also the Mule Team. Those are 2 tomatoes that people just love. I have to grow those every year and collect the seeds. Same thing with the pepper plants. The Pusa Jawala, that's the hot one from India. I collect seeds from that. That is a delicious hot pepper. Also the No Heat Habanero. I collect peppers from that. This one is what's called Ajvarsky. It's a new one. And I want to see how it grows, how it tastes. I actually harvested from this already growing inside. Love the flavor, so I know you're going to love it too. So I know I should gather seeds. So I have to grow the Ajvarsky and what's called the Yellow Monster. Huge peppers, beautiful, showy, delicious, mild. Both of these are sweet peppers. Great for grilling, stewing, anything you want to do peppers with. It's kind of like a bell pepper plus. It's a lot better than bell peppers. Now, the reason I have to be very careful with these is I don't want them intermixing with the pollen, and also the tomatoes intermixing pollen, because I don't want crossbreeds. So I have to grow this on one side of the yard, this one 300 feet away, the other one 300 feet away, the other one 300 feet away. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Because I have 3 acres. Not so easy. I have deer that march on through here and they eat everything in their sight. They just totally wipe everything out. So I have to put fences around this. It's going to be a pain in the butt. And yet I do it. I do it for you, I do. But also I'm in the garden space, I'm going to try and grow little things. I don't know what, but a few different kinds of maybe radishes, maybe celery, greens, all different kinds of stuff that I normally don't grow for myself. I want to grow to just see what it looks like, and also maybe it'll give you an idea. So if you might want to try it next year, you can get the seeds and try it yourself. Okay, let's go on to Teresa. Ooh, Teresa, you have a 3-part question. Very slick. I just ordered your book. Oh, she just ordered my book and she can't wait to read it. Why, thank you. I appreciate it. I was wondering about the quote that's shown on the book title. And in quotes, it says, "Dreams are wondrous things." I remember that. I actually remember when I came up with that. Is that your quote? Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. It is profound and I love it. I have a few questions. Are your recipes in your book? No. No, I don't put recipes in my book because I only have a few, and I do them on the programs. I don't really much care for printing out recipes because I like to demonstrate how it's done, and that way you have a clear view of what it looks like, what I think of it, how I do it, and I don't think that you can get that off of text. So I didn't put recipes in there, no. It's more of a biography of how a little boy became this. And it's actually pretty interesting. The good times, the bad times, the long road, the twists and turns in my life path, and how I got to be where I am and how I got to be who I am. It's a very good read as far as I'm concerned. I think people would enjoy it. I do have a link to the book below every single program. If you scroll down there, you can get it in PDF format, I think, small book, or a large book. I call it the Ray version. That's the one with all the big words in it. And I read the whole book on my programs, chapter after chapter. People really like that. But some folks just like the book so they can sit down, do it in their own time, and get it in their own head how things turned out. I used to love reading like that. I still do every now and then. Okay, have you ever grown calamansi? Is that how you pronounce it? It's a citrus fruit that's native to the Philippines. No, I have not. I've grown a lot of citrus, but I have not grown that. And third, do you have hummingbird feeders on the property? Ooh, I have a few on my little porch on my apartment, and they're so amazing to watch. They have so much personality, small, but really tough for such tiny birds. Well, no, I don't have actual hummingbird feeders per se, you know, like the plastic ones and stuff, or the glass ones, but I do have nature's hummingbird feeders. I have honeysuckle bushes. I have morning glory flowers that grow wild out here, and some people don't like that. I do, because they don't bother me. They don't bother my garden. I have morning glory, and also they haven't arrived yet, and I don't know why. They should be arriving this month. A whole slew of little tiny starts of plants that I'm going to be starting here in the Voodoo Garden, growing them up and planting them outside. Some of them can't go outside, so they have to stay in here. But I went through this website, and I chose a lot of things, trees and vines that put out flowers, and because I love the smell. They're all fragrant. They're all flowers that hummingbirds and bees and natural pollinators are going to love. So I'm actually going to be boosting my natural pollination out here for all the wild bees that are out here and all the butterflies and hummingbirds, because I love hummingbirds. I do. You know, hummingbirds will scare you, though. They are beautiful birds. We have the one with the green chest. I don't want that. Is it an emerald? If they call it an emerald one, that one is a beauty. We only have one. We have some common ones that go through here, and I was doing my compost more than one time, and I'm cruising along, singing a song. You know, I'm lost in my own thoughts when I do compost because I'm out there dancing in the sunshine, which means basically I'm losing myself to the day. The sun is out, the birds are cheeping, I'm turning compost, it stinks, my life is perfect, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, because you don't see them, because they're so fast, they go, and it goes by me, and I about crap myself, because I don't know what it is, and they just buzz right by me. And they're on their way. They're busy. They got somewhere to go. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere around here. So yes, I do have hummingbirds on my property, and I want to attract them even more. So once I get everything planted outside and it starts flowering, I'm going to show you what kind of flowers and also flowering trees. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. You know there's a tree called a tulip tree? Yeah, there is. I'll be showing it to you when it comes in. Okay, let's go on to Rob. Hey, Rob. What has been your garden bugaboo? You know, when I read bugaboo, I had to laugh. I had to actually look it up. In other words, something you've tried growing a few times but never had success with. That's an easy one, Rob. Well, indoors, it was always an avocado. I'm pointing over there because I have an avocado tree that's doing some really weird stuff. You're going to have to tune into the Voodoo Garden to see what's going on with that avocado. Something that's never happened with me before. But outside, watermelon. Oh, when I was a kid, and that was 1,000 years ago or so. Some of you older folks, remember the big watermelons? The ones that Dad used to carry on his shoulder, and they'd take them outside, slice them up, give each kid a piece. You're not allowed inside because it's messy. They give you a slice of watermelon, no plate, no fork, no nothing. You just shove your face in it, and you eat watermelon. It drips all over you and your clothes, and then you have to hose yourself off before you're allowed indoors. Yeah, because it's all sticky and everything. And you're eating watermelon, and then you start spitting seeds, and then it gets to be fun because you and your friends are eating watermelon. It's nice and cold because Dad had it in the fridge or on ice, and it's a hot day in the summertime because they only had it during the hot of summer. Nowadays, you can get watermelon almost anytime, even in the winter, because they import it from other countries. But nowadays, the watermelon is seedless, and it's also flavorless when it's sold in the store. And so I don't eat watermelon as much anymore. I had a good idea. I'll grow watermelon myself. I'm a gardener. I can do things like this. And you know what? I can't. For some reason, the vines will grow really good, the flowers will come out, the fruits come out, and then bunnies come along and they eat the little fruits. And I cannot, and then we also have wild rats and mice. They eat the little fruits. Birds come down, they eat the little fruits. And I don't get watermelons. And if I do, I get those weird beetles that get on vines. They're not vine borers, they're some other kind of weird beetle. They gather usually on pumpkins and cantaloupe and stuff. And there'll be a whole group of them, like 100. And you walk up to them and they go, and they go underneath the leaves. Have you seen those? Yeah, I have those. Where they come from, I don't know. They don't bother anything except watermelons, pumpkins, and then any other kind of vines. So I'm kind of shying away from vines, but I've never had good luck with a watermelon. Nope, that is my white whale. Someday, before I die, I'm going to grow a watermelon, I'm going to eat it, and it's going to be good. But until then, I'm just going to have to wait and see if the stores come out with decent watermelons. Okay, next one. Oh, I have to cycle the camera so that it doesn't shut off. Hold on just a second. Yay! Okay. Melinda, you're next. Hi, Melinda. The past few years, I've used the, quote, City Pickers containers to grow herbs and lettuces. Now, I had to look that up. There's actually a brand called City Pickers. It's really kind of cool. It's like a square or rectangular container, and they're usually on legs or wheels, and they're mainly for balconies and porches and stuff like that. So you can have a big pot and grow a lot of stuff in it, and they're not like these pots or anything like that. But they're actually pretty cool. They're called City Pickers containers, and she grows herbs and lettuces in them. The container always worked well. Today, though, I went out to turn over the soil in the containers to get ready for planting, and I noticed that in 2 of my 6 containers, the soil is very soggy, almost like sludge. I think they didn't drain like they were supposed to. Possibly the drain holes got clogged with dirt. Is there something I can add to my soil to dry it out and to keep it from happening? Or do you think I should just throw that soil away and start over? Thanks for any suggestions that you can give. By the way, I received my order of seeds from your little shop this week. Thank you so much. I can't wait to start planting them. Well, Melinda, this is my thought. My thought is a spider web just hit me. I think a spider landed on me, a little baby one. I got a whole bunch of little baby spiders in here. It's a whole crop. Anyway, what happens sometimes, even with these kind of containers, the bottom hole, the soil will pack right at the very bottom, and the water doesn't drain as well as it should, or there's not enough drain holes. One way to take care of this, very, very simple. Get a trash bag or something, dump the soil into there, okay? Or a big container that you can dump all the soil in. Dump it all out. Go out into your alley or somewhere where you can find little rocks and stuff that are bigger than the hole. Get a little container of those things. Dump it on the bottom and make sure that it plugs up those holes. And I don't know where the holes are on these, but if the holes are on the very bottom, just put maybe an inch of rocks on there, and that will form an air pocket with rocks to keep the soil from touching the holes. And then you put the soil back in, and then the soil will drain through, and then at the very bottom it'll sift through those rocks without the soil, just the water, and it will keep the soil drier. That's how you take care of that. Now, as far as your wet soil, this is an easy fix. Go down to your local garden center if you want and buy vermiculite or perlite. More than likely perlite, P-E-R-L-I-T-E. Perlite is going to be the most common thing you find. It looks like white, it looks like styrofoam nuggets is what it is, but it's actually a volcanic rock, little tiny white pieces of volcanic rock. That, if you add that, about 1 part of that to 4 parts of soil, mix that up really well, and then put that soil back in, what that will do is that lightens up the soil, makes it fluffier, and it keeps it from compacting as much, and it helps it drain. Now, if you don't want to get a whole bunch of gravel to put on those holes down there, just get a couple rocks and put one, a mismatched one, on top of each hole. That way the water can go around the rock and go in there, and then mix that soil the way I told you. You're never going to have a problem again. And by the way, good luck on your seeds. Phoenix. God, I love that name. I don't know why. I've always liked that name. I do, you know, that's the name of a city, but it's also been a beautiful name because the way I think of Phoenix is the bird. The mythical bird. I've always liked phoenixes. Anyway, Phoenix says, I do container gardening. Last summer we had a problem with slugs and Japanese beetles. Oh boy, you got hit pretty hard. I'm not sure if any have gotten into the soil at the end of the season, but growing season is around the corner, and I want to know what I can put in the soil in the containers to get rid of them before I start planting for the next season. Any suggestions are really appreciated. Thank you. Well, here's my answer, and this will work perfectly. The Japanese beetles generally aren't in the soil, but they will lay eggs, and their slugs, their babies, are in the soil, and the babies will turn into adults and then come out and then get on your plants and start chewing them up. One way to get rid of those, and as well as slugs, both of those, the juvenile baby version of the beetles and also the slugs, those are what's called soft-bodied insects. You know, the slugs are squishy and they have a soft body, no protective shell. Same thing with the grubs for the beetles. Now, those are very susceptible to anything that's going to touch their skin. They got very, very soft, delicate skin. You know what's going to take care of them? And it's going to be ugly. It's going to be really ugly. What you do is you take hydrogen peroxide out of your medicine cabinet, 1 part that, and I wrote it down here, 1 part that and 3 parts or 4 parts? 1 part peroxide, 3 parts water. So 1 cup peroxide, 3 cups water, and do that up like 2 cups peroxide, 6 cups water, however much you need. Mix it up into a container, and then wait into a water container. Make sure your soil is dry a little bit, and then give it a good solid dousing. A good solid dousing to where the water goes all the way in there and hopefully drains out the bottom holes. And then just wait a while. Wait like a few days before you start using that. What that will do is hydrogen peroxide will destroy their tissue and eat them alive. Yeah, it's really disgusting. They will die in the soil, they will rot and decompose in the soil, and the microbes will eat them and fertilize your soil. So, ironically, the insects that were going to destroy your plants will actually help your plants if you kill them. And the peroxide is very safe. It oxygenates the soil, it isn't going to harm anything, and it won't harm any plants that are already in there. That's the nice thing about it, but it will kill those insects. And do that once. Do that once at the beginning of the season before they start growing, and then at the end of the season before winter gets there, do it one more time in case any grubs have gotten in there or they've laid any eggs. That will take care of it at the end of the season. Next season at the beginning, do it again. 2 times a year, I think you're going to be just fine. Lori, hey, oh, I'm sorry. Michelle, I almost skipped you, Michelle. I'm sorry. I have lots of pine needles mixed in with the leaves that the mister rakes up and puts in the compost pile. He's pretty handy. You might want to keep him around. Is this good or bad? We live in the woods, so pine needles are in abundance. You know, Michelle, and everybody else out there, there is a misnomer, information that goes around that isn't actually true. And I don't think it's being spread maliciously. I think it's just from ignorance. People will tell you that pine needles are acidic and they will acidify your soil. So don't use them in compost. Don't use them for mulch. Don't plant anything around pine needles. That's actually not true. Those 3 things are absolutely 100% not true. And this is why. Because A pine tree has pine needles in their green, whether it's spruce, pine, fir, whatever it is. Those needles, and even arborvitae and things like that, those are all acidic. And they're acidic because they're green. The acidity in them is inside the liquid in those needles. So what they do is when they fall on the ground and they dry, once they're brown and they're dry, the acidity is gone. It evaporates out of those and they are nothing more than leaves. They're a carbon source for compost. They're wonderful for putting into compost with other stuff to help break them down. Or this is a good thing, you can use them for mulch around plants. Put them in nice and thick. What'll happen is the soil will slowly decompose those over a couple years, and like at the end of the growing season, you can turn them in under the soil after they've decomposed throughout the entire growing season. Dig them into the soil, put them into compost, use them as you would dried grass or leaves. They're perfectly fine, and they're not acidic. Isn't that cool? Yeah, that's something I learned. I actually used to believe that they were acidic, and then I found out, no, just the green stuff is. So yeah, use them, use it as much as you want. All right, last one. This last one is from Lori. I wanted to save Lori for the end because Lori has a question, has a concern, and I believe that this needs to be brought up because this is why. This has nothing to do with gardening. Actually, it does. It does have a little something to do with gardening. I mentioned in my book, and I've also mentioned in my programs, I'm not shy about it, I'm a very open book, that I had, well, I still have it, clinical depression. I do. I don't say that I really suffer from it anymore, but I'm afflicted by it almost every day. Even though I take medication, even though I do what I can do to lessen the effects, it is still a very real reality of my life. And I deal with that. And I also deal with people who don't understand that. So I do my very best to spread information to help people to understand this so that they might be able to not so much help their friends, but to understand their friends. And that is the key to helping somebody with depression. So with that being said, I want to read this and then I just want to tell you something, okay? So here we go. Lori said, and I don't know if Lori wanted this read, but she didn't say she didn't, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there, okay? Lori said, I'm not sure if it's too late to ask questions, but I mostly just need to vent. And that's what got me when she said that. I understood. I understand everything she says in here because I went through it and I go through it. How do you stop thinking about painful memories? Is that even possible to do? I've mentioned before that I love your channel because you help me take my mind off of things and pay attention to you instead. It's almost like therapy and a big help when I need help. I've had depression since I was 7 years old from abuse. Every type you can imagine. The memories and flashbacks are crippling and I just want to ball up and cry. I can't tell you how many times a day I tell myself I wish I were dead. And this is serious stuff, folks. But then again, we do serious stuff on this channel too. But it's going to end on a good note. So just bear with me and let's go through this together, okay? I can't tell you how many times a day I tell myself I wish I were dead. But I'm oddly not suicidal. I just don't want to be here anymore. Now remember that, okay? If that makes any sense, I can't figure out how to leave things in the past and stop letting them haunt me. The first and last time I found the strength to talk to somebody about my feelings, several years ago, by the way, I was told to just, quote, just cheer up. And I've heard that before too. I know what you're talking about. And now I need to stop feeling sorry. And they also tell her how she needs to stop feeling sorry for herself. There's people in this world starving, so I should be happy with the life that I have. That's what they pretty much tell her. That felt like a punch in the gut. And I swore to never speak on it again, but I just needed to vent today. And I do understand that. I don't think I'm self-loathing at all. Just a broken soul looking for happiness. People tell you to reach out and talk to someone all the time. But responses like those are what's holding people back. Thanks for listening. Now, what I have to say about that is I know exactly what you're talking about. And you know, I didn't used to. I used to be on the other side of that fence. My mom, she came down with depression. And at that time, this was many, many years ago, I think it was like 2005 or 4, I had no idea what depression was. And like a lot of people, they confuse depression with being depressed. You can be depressed about something. That has nothing to do with depression. And it really is kind of sad that those words are connected because they aren't the same thing as like deer and deer. They sound the same, but they're not the same. If you're depressed about something, you're just sad about it, and you need to figure out how to get over that to get back to your normal. Depression is your normal. See, that's the thing. And depression is a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's a psychological imbalance in your brain. And it also causes physical symptoms that can cause pain in your body and in your head. That is incredible. And the weird thing about depression is there's different kinds. It's like, the flu. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of flu, but they're all the flu. But there's different kinds of depressions: bipolar depression, regular clinical depression. There's a bunch of different kinds of that, and they have different symptoms. Some of them are similar, some of them are different. And one of the things that folks that don't have this need to know: depression is not curable. It is only treatable. Okay? Get that into your head when you deal with somebody that has depression. They don't want depression. Nobody wants depression. It's like a migraine. Nobody wants a migraine if they have a choice. I didn't choose this. It chose me. And the thing what happened when it hit me, I didn't know I had depression because I didn't know anything about depression. I thought I was dying inside. And there was something so seriously wrong that I couldn't figure out what it was. And it was this deep darkness inside that I couldn't get rid of no matter how I tried. And it took me down a dark path that I almost died. And I wrote about that in my book. And a lot of people can relate to this. And the thing about depression is, and I want to bring that up, she said that she sometimes wishes she was dead, but she's not suicidal. And that doesn't mean she wants to die, okay? That doesn't mean, and I know how she feels. And a lot of people out there with depression, they know exactly how she feels. You think and you feel that you just can't bear it anymore. And the only escape would be death, because you haven't figured out a way to get rid of this, and it's not curable, and the doctors are no good, friends are no good. You're all alone in this by yourself, and you can't get it right. You can't be cured. And some people are so desperate, they figure anything is better than this. I'd rather be dead, but they don't want to be dead. You see what I mean? And that's where some people actually do die. They kill themselves because of this. They commit suicide. But that isn't going to help them, because that wasn't the solution. Okay? And so my view on all of this is that we're not looking for a cure. Those of us with depression, we're not looking for a cure. And one thing we are looking for is people to just understand that there are some times that we're not ourselves, we're not at our best. And for you to just understand that, and you know what, the best thing you can do for those of us who have this condition is to listen. We're not asking for a cure. We're not asking you to give us that answer, that golden nugget, because there is no golden nugget. So don't worry about that. But when somebody like our viewer here, she wants to talk to you about it, sit there, and if you're a friend, if you care, listen to them. Allow them to fall apart. Allow them to discuss things that are in their head, in their mind, in their life that they're going through right now. Because one of the things that helps the most is to have people listen. Be there, listen, tell them, yes, I hear you. I know that you're going through this. I don't have the answers, but I do hear you. Maybe they want you to hold their hand. Maybe they want a hug. Maybe they just want to sit there and be quiet and be with you. That's usually what they want the most. And that's what I'm getting here. Because one of the things that I noticed on this was that she wanted to just talk about it. And so that's what I let her do. I just listened to this. I read it. And I understand what's going through her mind. So yes, that's something that you can do to help people with that kind of a condition. If you have any questions, by the way, and Lori, don't worry about it. You're perfectly safe here. So, uh-oh, somebody's coming downstairs. Hello.
Hi.
That's Mike. And Little Rascal. But anyway, if you do ever have any questions concerning depression or anything that you might be able to do to help somebody that you love, a friend, a family member, or if you're the one that's suffering with this, please feel free to contact me. I'm an open book about this. I don't mind discussing it. It's something that people need to talk about. Once we get it out in the open, once we talk about it, it's not such a weird mystery and something that's to be ashamed of, because that's the thing. A lot of people are ashamed of that. I understand that. But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. You have friends, you have places to reach out. There are a lot of resources out there. And usually, the only resource that they really need, aside from what they're doing with a therapist or medication, is they need this. They need you to listen to them. And that's what it boils down to. So I'm going to wind up this program, and I got a lot of orders to fill. This is the busy season on Little Shop of Seeds, but I always have time for you here on Weekend Edition. If you have any questions, post it in the comment section below. One of us, me or Little Rascal, will get back to you as soon as possible. Until next week. Hey, Rascal, come here. Yeah. Have a good day, everybody. You gonna have a good day? Okay. Oh, thank you so much.